that can be a superpower. And at the same time, it can also grab you away from other things that are going on in your life as well. If you have other priorities, if you have a family, if you have friends and you want balance, it's very hard to have that balance if you're so hyper-focused and spending all of your time on the fixation.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Bunny Hugs and Mental Health, a free safe space for people to share and learn from others' experiences with mental health and addictions. I'm Todd Runnebaum, suicide attempt survivor and a recovering substance abuser. What a lovely guest I have this week. If you are a regular listener at all, you probably know that I talk about ADHD often. I've just was recently diagnosed less than a year ago, and it's kind of been a bit of a revelation in my life. So I've been chatting about it a lot, and yeah, it might be annoying, but it's been life-changing for me. So anyway, today I'm speaking with Brooke Schnittman, and she is an ADHD expert and coach, and she is also a podcaster. Her podcast is SuccessFULL, with 2 L's, with ADHD, and we're going to talk about ADHD, and she's going to clue me in with some stuff. This episode will be on YouTube, if not right now, then very shortly. And also, I hope you listen to the episode on Thursday, which is going to be a very regular thing now. Every Thursday, I am going to be co-hosting an episode of Bunny Hugs of Mental Health called Mental Health Headline Hot Takes with Nick and Todd. My co-host, Nick Thompson from Love is Blind, and from his podcast, Eyes Wide Open. He's also a mental health advocate. We pick some articles in the news about mental health and discuss those. I hope you listened and enjoyed that, because it's going to be every Thursday. And those are actually going to be on YouTube as well. I haven't posted them yet, but that's under Nick's YouTube channel if you want to check that out, Eyes Wide Open. And just to warn you, there's going to be a whole bunch of great episodes coming up again soon with all types of wonderful guests. I don't want to spoil it because I haven't recorded the one yet, so I don't want to jinx it. I hope they show up and we have a great chat. But anyway, one other thing, there's also a contest right now going on. Not really a contest, I guess. It's more of a draw. If you go to Apple Podcast, you rate and review Bunny Hugs and Mental Health, take a screenshot of your rating and review and email it to bunnyhugspodcast@gmail.com. At the end of January, I'll be picking 4 people, and they will win $25 gift cards from Co-op. So that's cool. So go do that. And if you're not already following me on Instagram, do that at Bunny Hugs Podcast, Bunny Hugs and Mental Health on Facebook, and on YouTube, Bunny Hugs and Mental Health. Okay, now, without further ado, I give you ADHD expert, coach, and podcaster, Brooke Schnittman. I spoke with Kristen Carter a little while ago. She was I think you obviously know her. She's also a very popular ADHD podcaster. And she explained the other day on a podcast that she doesn't think ADHD is a superpower. I kind of agreed to that because I was diagnosed late in life. So I don't know if that's why. So because I struggled with a lot of anxiety, depression, suicide attempt, addiction, yada, yada, yada. Yeah. Sorry, I just watched Seinfeld the other day too. Yada, yada, yada.
I watch it every day.
Yeah. So I'm curious what your take is on that.
Yeah, listen, ADHD is complex, and there's different spectrums of ADHD, right? There's mild, moderate, severe. And if it's unmanaged and it's severe, it can definitely be hard to deal with. And it can come with other disorders, like you said, anxiety, depression. And there are a lot of negatives that can be associated with it. But when it is managed and you do know how your brain works, there's amazing things that can come out of it as well. You know, some of the most brilliant entrepreneurs out there have ADHD. Albert Einstein, Thomas Edison, Michael Jordan, Whoopi Goldberg. I can go on and on. We just need to know how to harness it. And it can be challenging to do that. But I do believe that if you manage your ADHD, it can be a superpower.
Hmm. So Albert Einstein was diagnosed with ADHD?
Suspected ADHD and autism.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't know at the time, but his tendencies have been diagnosed as suspected.
I wonder how he managed, suspecting that he did have it. Like if he,
It sounds like he hyper-focused.
yeah, I suppose.
And I recently listened or saw a documentary on Thomas Edison, and he also very ADHD like, risked everything for his invention, right? Said it was ready and it wasn't ready. And there was investors, and he got lucky because when it needed to be ready, it actually was ready. And we all know who Thomas Edison is, but he wasn't
Invented
afraid.
the Tesla.
Yeah, okay. Thomas
No,
Edison?
No, okay. Sorry. I should warn you, I'm a smart ass, which apparently is a symptom.
But listen, I wouldn't be surprised if Elon Musk had ADHD. I know he has autism, but I don't know about ADHD. Anyway, Thomas Edison, he had risky behaviors. He said that his invention was ready. It wasn't. And then when it was time, it actually was ready. So we got lucky with that. And we all have heard of him before. So yes, there's a lot of successful people. I think with ADHD, we can hyper focus on something that we're passionate about and be the best in that thing. Right? Whether it be an inventor, whether it be an artist, whether it be an entrepreneur. And that can be a superpower. And at the same time, it can also grab you away from other things that are going on in your life as well. So if you have other priorities, if you have a family, if you have friends and you want balance, it's very hard to have that balance if you're so hyper focused and spending all of your time on the fixation that you have.
Mm-hmm. So for me, so I quit jobs all the time. Like I don't have a job right now, but
well, you're a podcaster.
That's true. I am kind of hyper focusing on this right now because I've been doing it for long enough. I feel like to level up, I need to focus on it more. But that constant starting from the bottom, because I'm constantly bouncing from job to job. I couldn't stick with going to secondary school because I could never decide what I wanted to do or whatever. So I dropped out of university. That stuff took a toll on me. Oh, still does even in the way that I feel maybe. God, I can't remember the word.
It becomes obsessive.
Well, I just feel inadequate. That's the word. Inadequate. And I see other people my age and they've had these, really long, really great careers, or I'm not, I have a family and a wife, and I feel like I'm not being financially supportive enough, especially as a man and stuff. And so, I still struggle with that, and that, so then that creates the anxiety, it can create the depression, which can trigger wanting to use alcohol or drugs, yada, yada, yada.
So Seinfeld.
Yeah. So since I've been diagnosed, it's very validating. I'm learning a lot. But I still struggle with the negative
beliefs.
Yeah.
So by the age of 10, ADHDers receive 20,000 more negative messages than neurotypicals. So yes, we could have a lot of negative experiences and have a hard time separating that from reality. And when we perceive ourselves as failing, like you said and shared that you have, and I've definitely experienced that as well. Like you being the man of the household and feeling inadequate because you can't provide the way that you think you should be providing, to step into that man role. That is, it's creating it. Listen, it's a very real feeling, but no one's telling you, unless your wife is telling you, that you have to be the breadwinner, that you have to stick to one job, that you can't bounce around, that you can't figure out what your passion is. So you're associating that with negative experiences and feeling perhaps that you can't stick with one thing and you can't provide. And of course, a lot of people would feel the way that you're feeling, but it doesn't have to be associated with that feeling.
Mm-hmm. That's something I'm learning and trying to accept. Well, I mean, I accept it, but I don't know if my brain does sometimes.
No, negative experiences and negative thoughts stick so much more than positive. And the great thing about a human brain is it's like a muscle and we can rewire it. Like you had suicidal ideations and attempts, and I don't know how long it's been since then, but it sounds like you are in this trajectory to healing and becoming more aware of your brain and your purpose. And you can do that at any time, and you could rewire your brain at any time. So it's never too late to change the way that you're thinking.
Right. But with ADHD, it's hard. It's a hardwire. It's not software, I guess. So I can change the way my perspective on it, but some of the behaviors I can't quite change, or I have to come up with different strategies to go through life. For example, when I got assessed, they found that I had a really bad working memory. Mm-hmm. So there's no way I can improve my memory, but there's tools and strategies I can use to have me not forget things. Is that accurate?
You can, yes and no. You can improve your working memory. Will it ever be a strength of yours? No. But you can improve it. There are brain exercises out there to improve your working memory. There are physical exercises out there to improve your working memory. And there are tools. There's behavioral tools, and there's also medication that can help it in the temporary while you're on the medication. But
marijuana?
Yes, you can. Adderall.
That's what I use for
stimulants.
Okay. Right. No, I actually, speaking of that, I forgot to take my meds this morning. I just took it about half an hour ago.
Sounds like your tools aren't working.
Normally, I'm not too bad, but today I was like, oh, of course, I'm speaking with someone about 8. But I did cope with marijuana for years. I'm 7 years clean and sober now, but yeah. Sorry, I cut you off. See, I forgot to take my meds.
No,
so
that's
I'm gonna
okay.
be a little...
Yeah, you forgot to take your meds. Your working memory can improve. It won't be a strength of yours, but you can improve on your weaknesses. I think the biggest thing is to modify your conditions. Like you said, create tools that can help you with those weaknesses, delegate some of those things. So you have a wife, hopefully her strengths are your weaknesses and vice versa. So you can work together as a team and communicate fairly. But yeah, so certain behaviors, to answer your question, with ADHD can improve your executive functions, which is working memory is part of your executive functions. It can improve. And there are pathways to do that. And now I kind of forgot where we were going with this as well. We're just having an honest conversation. Here's some working memory. But working memory, working memory is one of the most common things that individuals with ADHD struggle with. Working memory, rejection sensitive dysphoria. Yeah.
Are you mad at me for saying that?
I'm so mad at you. Or are you perceiving that I'm mad at you?
That's just No, that's just my brain half the time. It's like, oh, I texted them and it's been 5 minutes.
They didn't
hate
text
me
me
now.
back. But meanwhile, you can wait like weeks and forget to text them back. And they should understand, though.
Yeah, that's right.
It's the double-edged sword of ADHD, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's a lot of paradoxes in ADHD.
Yeah. Don't tell me what to do, but tell me how to do it.
Yeah, I need chaos, but it has to be structured chaos from 9 to 5.
Exactly. I hate structure, but I thrive on it at the same time.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. And yeah, I think a lot of people in my life are like, you don't have ADHD, and stuff like that. And it's like, they don't know the inside of my brain,
think?
Right? I think, I'm not sure. I guess because they only see one side of the paradox maybe or something, and they don't realize the struggle of like, oh my God, I have all these skills and I have so much talent and I've done all these amazing things in my life. And they're like, oh man, Todd, you know, all that. They see the superpower part of it, but then they don't see the part where it's like, but why am I broke and jobless?
Struggle.
And yeah, why can't I, why am I in this? Well, I just learned to the paralysis part of it too. It's like, anyway, it seems like I'm doing lots of stuff, but yet I beat myself up because I'm just sitting there scrolling on my phone for 3 hours going, hating myself because I can't get up and do the thing that I want to do and stuff like that. So yeah. So
it's that initiation piece, which is another thing, the inhibition to be able to get the activation to get started on something is very difficult with ADHD, especially when you are in paralysis mode. If you're sitting down, right, scrolling, it's very hard to stop what you're doing and do the thing, especially if the thing is mundane, or especially if the thing is something that you don't want to do. It's going to be hard, or it's overwhelming and you don't know where to start. All of those things can stop you from getting started.
Mm-hmm. So now I'm struggling with my 17-year-old son, who I am 110% convinced that he also has ADHD. Mostly because he's relating to all the things I've been talking about for the last year, and I'm seeing it in him now. Yeah. And so it's hard not to fall, it's hard to be in that sympathetic role and supportive, but also the father role where it's like, I just want to be like, oh, it's fine. Just get up and do it, buddy. I know what you're going through. Just do it. And it's like, and then I feel like, I'm contradicting myself. There's that paradox again, I think.
Right. So it's interesting. I just recorded a podcast episode about this similarity of what you're talking about. And as a neurodivergent, having a child who's neurodivergent, it is so much harder because you have to manage yourself first to be able to manage them. And you have to be proactive in planning out things so that you can create structure with your child. But if you're having a hard time doing that yourself, how can you do it in a non-reactive way with your child? And let's face it, having ADHD, as you mentioned, it can be hard. So having a child who is similar to you, not only is it hard because it's difficult for them to manage, so then you have to manage them, but it's also just, it's not easy. And it comes with all of those social pieces, emotional pieces that you have to deal extra hard with too. And you want to get out the door and your 17-year-old's not ready, and maybe you haven't taken your meds that day, or you didn't get a good night's sleep, or you haven't figured out your morning routine, and you're like, come on, we're late. But like, he has no concept of time either. Mm-hmm. And now you're battling yourself and you're battling him.
Right. Yeah. It's more, I see him beating himself up, doing that initiating thing. Like he'll be like, oh, I've got so much homework to do, and oh, why can't I do it? And plus I think ADHD aside, I think we both also have just anxiety issues in general. So it's like, how do I motivate him? How do I keep him emotionally regulated? Because he'll just like on a whim, just get like overwhelmed and then he'll start crying and won't eat and stuff. And So it's like, and then it's like, okay,
Yeah.
what do I say?
So
What would have worked for me? And it's hard.
it's hard. And a lot of the outbursts that he's experiencing can be learned behaviors. So how do you undo those behaviors at 17?
He didn't learn it from me.
Nope, it's not you at all.
It's the dog.
So yeah, it's harder when they're teenagers, but it doesn't mean that they can't relearn positive habits and slowly decrease negative habits, just like you, right? And
Right.
how do you give them the motivation? You can't. The kid has to be motivated, but you have to find out what motivates him and then meet him where he's at.
Mm-hmm. What would help is if we could afford an assessment and the medication and the coaching, but unfortunately it's a couple $1,000s or long waits, and it's just, I don't know what it's like down in Florida, but around here it's very, very hard to get the assessment.
So I just got recommended to a place in Canada, in Vancouver. I don't know how close it is to you, but I'm sure they do online as well. ADHD Adult Center, RE Center.
Okay.
And you might want to look that up. I'm not sure if they take insurance, but there are some places that do take insurance. Now, there's different ways of getting assessed. You can have a psychiatric evaluation. You could have a neuropsychological evaluation. The neuropsychological evaluation is going to be more expensive. It's going to take more time. It's more robust. Very often, they recommend it for children so they can see all of the executive functions and see how it manifests in school. But there are some adults, including myself, who just go the psychiatric evaluation route.
Okay. I ended up getting through my provincial government. They were able to fund my assessment. It was like an 8-month waiting period, but it's only for adults. So, I mean, he's going to be 18 in a year anyway. So maybe that's the best way to go anyway. But
what is he hoping to get out of the assessment, or what are you hoping to get out of it for him?
Just a little more coaching, and the right coaching, the right treatment, the right medication, the right supports, I guess. I know, like, I've been pushing like podcasts like yours, and I have ADHD to him. Of course, I'm his dad, and he won't, he'll be like, yeah, whatever, dad. Or he'll forget to do it, or
So it's important, of course, to know how your brain works. And when he finds out that he has ADHD, I very often say, then what, right? Every ADHD brain works differently. So if you know what his symptoms are, you can treat the symptoms. You might not be able to treat it with the right medication, which that can be challenging. You don't want to treat him with the wrong medication through a psychiatrist or a nurse practitioner if he doesn't have the ADHD diagnosis. But you can get coaching. You can get therapy. You can get all those other things. He's not going to be able to get accommodations if he's in school for ADHD if he doesn't have an ADHD diagnosis. But there are a lot of things that you can do without the actual diagnosis. I understand the validity of it, though.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You know what I just discovered that's been amazing for me?
What?
Google Calendar. Apparently it's been around for a long time.
Really? Tell me more.
I've just...
what is it? I haven't heard of it.
You haven't?
I'm kidding.
Oh, okay. But it's been a lifesaver as someone that's like, the podcast has been my full-time gig for a couple months now, and there's a lot of things I gotta Zoom calls and stuff. I gotta remember. It's like, whoa, this thing's been around for a while. I was gonna say I'm intimidated by learning new software and technology and stuff, so I was kind of dragging my feet for a long time. But then I realized, it's literally just putting something in a calendar. Anyway, you were going to say.
Yeah. No, I think that's where the emotional piece of ADHD comes in, right? catastrophize things and we make it so much bigger than it actually is very often, right? How many times are we like, oh my God, this is going to take me years to do, and we wait years and then it takes 5 minutes. Listen, we all do it.
But then
I'm not calling you out. I do it too.
Then here's the paradox thing. I'll start something knowing it'll take 3 years. Like I've done lots of artwork and stuff.
It'll take you 3 minutes. Yeah.
No, actually, it does take me 3 years. It's like, but yeah, I know it's going to take me 3 years. So it's like, oh, it's a bit of a challenge. I hyper focus for 3 years on this project. But then something else I think is going to take 3 years is like, I just did a YouTube tutorial. It took a minute and took me 3 minutes to do. Huh.
Sometimes you stumble on things and it's less time than we think it's going to be. But my point with I wanted to go back, if it's okay, to the calendar piece. So regardless if you have a digital calendar or a paper calendar, I don't care what kind of calendar you have. I like paper. I also use my phone for a calendar, but you're 40 to 70% more likely to do the thing if it's on your calendar and you write it down. So for me, if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. And I get anxiety when something is not on my calendar. So to your point with the working memory, like generally on Wednesday mornings, I have tennis. I'm on a tennis team and we have clinic on Wednesdays, and I'm going to Baltimore on Thursday for the ADHD conference. And I'm thinking to myself, can I commit to clinic on Wednesday? I feel like I have something. What do I have? What do I have? What do I have? I don't know if I could commit. Do you know how much anxiety I got by not being able to say yes, but wanting to say yes to this clinic? And then finally, after hours of just shutting off and letting my emotions calm down, it came to me. I'm like, oh, I have a group starting tomorrow. And my coach is the one coaching it, but it's starting tomorrow. And I thought to myself, I wanted to be there, to be on the first coaching group with her. But yeah, I live and die by my calendar is my point.
Mm-hmm. Well, a friend of mine turned me on to it because we're kind of, okay, I haven't announced this yet. Maybe it'll be announced by the time this comes out, but I'm going to be doing another podcast that's co-hosted with a friend of mine. So he's always sending me these calendar things. I was like,
2 podcasts.
Well, kind of. It's a second episode a week, I guess, but because he has a podcast too, and then we'll put it under our things. But I heard a child. You have a child?
I do. You hear her? She's downstairs and she's loud and she's 21 months and proud.
21 months. Dang. Yes. It sounds like a lamb in the background.
She's saying, da-da, da-da. Talk about distraction. It's like squirrel. Nope, that's a 21-month-old. That's my daughter.
Daughter? You said daughter. That's my daughter.
I said daughter. See, sometimes the New York comes out.
I've heard a lot about entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs having ADHD. I've also just saw another ADHD coach from the UK, a reel, and they were saying that's kind of a myth. I don't know. What do you think?
It's not a myth. So 35% of entrepreneurs have ADHD. So you're 600 times more likely to be an entrepreneur with ADHD.
Wow.
Introducing the timely children's book, Sometimes Daddy Cries. The visually stunning book is told through the eyes of a boy whose father suffers from depression. He sees his dad get sad, rest, and even go to the hospital, all while comparing his father's depression to a physical ailment. Sometimes Daddy Cries is getting rave reviews from parents and mental health professionals alike. One critic has stated, "This is a timely and important book that will help countless fathers and sons broach the subject of depression." An Amazon customer commented, "An excellent book to open up a conversation with a young child about depression in a parent. No big words, just a book about feelings." Sometimes Daddy Cries author Todd Rennebaum has personal experiences with anxiety, depression, and addiction. Sometimes Daddy Cries is available in hardcover and paperback on Amazon.ca and Amazon.com.
Today's episode of Bunny Hugs and Mental Health is brought to you by Co-op. I've been a member of my local co-op, Sherwood Co-op, for, about 25 years, I think. My co-op is one of more than 150 local independent cooperative associations in more than 600 communities across Western Canada. Co-op is a different kind of business. It's not just a gas bar or a grocery store, although co-op is those things too. At its core, co-op is a group of people working together to help their neighbors and build their community. Co-op members are owners, and success is shared with everyone. Your co-op doesn't benefit one person or one corporation. Your co-op was built for everyone. Your co-op was built for your community. Learn more about co-op and find a location near you at coop.crs. Well, technically, this is my third business.
Exactly.
The other two failed.
Doesn't mean you have to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
You can thrive in other roles. So maybe that's what the coach was talking about. But it's more likely that you're going to have ADHD as an entrepreneur for many obvious reasons. Like, we're risk takers. We don't conform to rules. We have difficult times with bosses. Very often we have new and exciting ideas and we want to implement them and create, and we want to follow our passion. And how do we do that? Very often as an entrepreneur.
I don't think people realize, like, when I leave a job, I get so emotionally twisted. It's like I cannot get out of bed. Like, it is like takes everything I have to go to that job that morning. That's how badly it's like when and it's usually about 2 years into the job that I start getting like that every time. And like, people just like,
You're bored.
You're like, oh, just, you got to suck it up. You got to make money or whatever. And it's like, you don't get it. Like, I almost physically can't even go. Like, and then I get really, really dark thoughts sometimes. Like, I'll say it. I'm still prone to suicidal thoughts, but I don't listen to them anymore. It's more of an observation, but still it's like, they will come into my head more often. It's like, I don't think people understand just how badly I need to leave this job. Doesn't matter how hard I try. And then that's when the inadequate feeling comes in and stuff. It's like, why can't I just have a fucking job? What is wrong with me?
So there's nothing wrong with you. First of all, it's so common with ADHD that you job hop or hobby hop. And it's usually on average every 2 to 3 years is when you get bored or with that repetitive, mundane thing. We need to be challenged with ADHD. We need to be excited. And if you are not leveling up in your job, if you're not doing new things in your job, it might not be the right environment for you. It might not be the right job. It might not be the right boss. There's so many factors to consider.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah, it just bothers me. Well, it's just frustrating that other people just don't understand just how hard it is.
It is hard. I remember. Sorry.
Your eggs are done.
It's the time timer that my daughter was playing with. She was destroying my office earlier. So no, it's really hard but like, I think when you become a little bit more like in the repetitive. So I'm fortunate enough to be able to work with people with ADHD and manage my ADHD on a daily basis, right? So I'm helping others and I'm also helping myself. So I'm focusing on it all the time. So I see it from other people's perspectives. And there's still a very like heavy part of me that has RSD and people-pleasing tendencies. And I'm working on that. And at the same time, I've also gotten to the point where, like, if someone I care about is saying that they don't believe this thing about my ADHD or whatever, instead of that initial like RSD or justice sensitivity of wanting to prove my point, it's like, okay, well, do they want to know about ADHD? Are they stuck in that thought process? Can I help them understand if they don't want to know, or they, they don't care to know, it's agree to disagree, right? So you can still love someone, you can still care about someone, even if they don't fully understand 100% of the aspects of you.
Okay. I'll love them.
And also, if someone you don't care about, right, is not believing you and is, causing you these feelings of inadequacy, feeling of having to explain yourself, like think about why they're even in your circle to begin with. We're old enough at this point to just toss them.
Oh, I have a very small friend group. Partly because when I got sober, it was just like, okay, I need quality, not quantity people in my life now. And partly age too. It's like, I'm getting fatter and older, and I'm fine just sitting in my basement talking to people on my computer.
Right? I used to be out and about, and my husband was a homebody. And when we first met, I'm like, come on, we got to do stuff. Come on. And now I'm just like, cancel plans. I'm very happy sitting on the couch and watching Blacklist with him.
Blacklist? What's
or
that?
Seinfeld. It's a rabbit hole. That's what it is. It's 9 seasons of 22 episodes.
What? Have I never heard of this show that has 9 seasons?
It's on Netflix. They probably filmed the seasons very quickly. I think it was only over like 3 or 4 years. And I was recommended to it, and we just binge watch it. It's great.
Huh.
It's very violent though. So if you don't like that, then it's probably not something you should watch.
I don't mind violence. My wife, she's not ADHD, but she does. When she binge watches something, I mean, holy Christ, it's 24 hours a day until the show is over. So she hyper focuses on shows.
That's me.
And it gets, depends on the show. If I hate the show, it's like I avoid her for 2 weeks because I can't even be in the room with the show because it's like nails on a blackboard. But I don't know if this has anything to do with ADHD, but she used to watch Game of Thrones, and she was binging it. It was like, I loved it. I was like, this is great. But like after 6 hours of people's heads being cut off and stuff, I was like, can we watch something else, please?
Exactly.
Speaking of mothers. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No.
You.
No, I was just going to say that when we watch TV as ADHDers, right, we can also get understimulated from the TV, believe it or not. So if the show is not as, Game of Thrones is, although I didn't really like it, but I don't think I gave it a chance. You can get understimulated by the show, and that's why we get on our phones and we do all these other things, because we just can't sit still, and we're not getting enough stimulation from it. So maybe that was the case in your situation. I don't know.
Some of it. I'll actually find shows that I find entertaining-ish so that I can do something else. Yeah.
So it's not your... Yep. Yeah. So it's a secondary focus while you're doing something else.
Yeah. While I'm playing a game on my phone or editing or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah. So it's just background noise for you.
Yeah. And I can look around and go, and then I ask my wife, who was that guy again? She'll tell me. I'll be like, okay, I'm all caught up.
Yeah. That's what my husband does. I'm like, aren't we watching the same show? Like, why do I have to keep replaying for you? What's happening?
Speaking of mothers, so I have I'm pretty sure my sister has ADHD. Her husband and her kids have it. I'm again positive she has it. I have another female friend, and they're both mothers. Both their daughters have been diagnosed with ADHD, and their dynamics are bananas. It's almost like two teenage girls like arguing with each other at times, and it's like, but you're the mother and the daughter, and I can see that it's like their ADHD are clashing or something. Is that a common thing?
Well, think about you and your son, right? So you both have ADHD and you get annoyed that you can't help him because so with women and
It's different.
ADHD,
Like watching them and watching my son and I, it's more like, I don't know. They get
so maybe
scrappier.
their ADHD is manifesting differently as women than it is in the two of you as men. But it's challenging, especially for a parent who sees themselves in the kid. That could be so annoying, right? For yourself as a parent when you see your weaknesses in your child because all you want to do is fix them, right? You don't want them to experience your weaknesses, but it's coming out. So it's resurfacing for yourself, like they're a mirror of you almost, right? It's like, oof, show me those weaknesses again. And then you can't manage yourself and you're having a hard time managing them. So it can be challenging to see, to be reminded of the qualities of yourself that you want to improve and you're having a hard time improving.
Yeah, I feel more helpless at times, and it's just like, oh, I just want to help him, you know what I mean? And that's why so many people have. That's why so many people have executive function coaches for their kids, because we want to take the emotion out of it. You want to have that healthy relationship as parent and child. And when you're battling all the time, it becomes toxic. Right. And with with my sister and my female friend and their daughters, it does seem more battling. But again, that's emotions involved again. Whereas with my son and I, it's more like empathy, and it's like almost guilt. Even on my side, it's like I feel bad that I've donated this genetic to you, and it's like, so it's yeah. But yeah, it's different dynamics.
No, it's tricky. It's different dynamics. Women have empathy too, sometimes too much, like a lot of empathy for their kids. But
of course,
I think men are from Mars, women are from Venus. We're just different species. We express emotions differently very often.
Yeah, actually, the female friend, she was my last boss. And I noticed quite often our ADHDs clashed, and that's part of the reason why I had to leave, because it was weird. It was like, because there are different types of ADHD, and I need structure, I need excitement and structure, but she was the kind that she would wait 5 minutes before something needed to be done, and like cram it through. And she always got it done, but barely. And I'd be like building anxiety all week, like, oh my God, we have a deadline here. What the fuck? So then I would get frustrated, and then she'd get frustrated with me getting frustrated, and they'd be like, I need the structure. I need this stuff.
Work styles.
Yeah. And it was funny because we were both diagnosed around the same time. So we were like, hey, we're going to be ADHD buddies. But it was like, the more I understood, it was like, no, this is actually not great.
Well, that's the thing. So I've had, as a previous special education teacher and administrator, I've worked with a lot of bosses who have ADHD, and their ADHD is manifested differently for them. And I had undiagnosed ADHD at the time. So when you were saying you feel like failure because you don't want to go to work after 2 years of working in a job, that's where I challenge you again to look at your environment, and maybe you're not compatible with your boss. And that's okay. Maybe it's too big of an environment, or the conditions aren't right. Or maybe the job itself is not exactly stimulating enough. So you can't tell
Sorry, I was going to say, but socially, we have a blast together. Like our ADHDs thrive.
Sure.
It's like, we're having a good time. And then we try working together, just like we're going to kill each other.
Butt heads.
Yeah.
So obviously it's not a good dynamic for both of you professionally, and you shouldn't feel bad about that, and she shouldn't feel bad about that. Like black and white thinking, right? Like you need to be prepared because of your anxiety so you don't miss a deadline. And since she waits 5 minutes until the deadline is up and then does the thing, that creates way too much anxiety for you to thrive in that work environment.
Anywho, it's a lovely business, lovely people. I just can't work there.
Fair enough. And
Yeah.
that's okay.
I think I've come to the conclusion I can't really work for anyone.
Hence you wanting to be an entrepreneur.
Yes. Here's something that I'm having trouble with right now is I have a hard time asking for money for people. So I've had another business before, and it was it didn't work, one, because that feeling of having to please people. So I provided a service. It was like picture framing and artwork and stuff. So I had a really, really hard time charging money because I always felt like, I don't know, like people are weird with money, including me. It's like, so then I wasn't asking enough money. And then I had anxiety for a week as I'm working on their thing. Are they going to like it? Are they going to like me? Are they going to be mad? Are they going to give me shit for? And so
it's a mindset shift.
Yeah. So I just got the hell out of here.
Yeah. So a lot of people with ADHD are empaths, and they do the job because they care. And they don't necessarily, if they didn't have to collect a paycheck, they wouldn't collect a paycheck. Seriously.
Right.
But also, if you're an entrepreneur and you can separate yourself from the invoice or from, having to be that person to charge, have another person that's a third party that takes care of all the money piece.
Hey, I'm learning because now
we make mistakes and we learn and we grow, and sometimes we can't afford to have a third person too right away.
Yeah. And with the podcast, it's like I could be making more money than I am. It's just I have a hard time hunting down sponsors and asking for money. But I have a friend now that said she would probably help out and stuff, And so that's like, yeah, I don't mind if you ask people for money for me. I can't do it. So, So hopefully soon I'll be able to.
I think a lot of that is also exposure therapy too. So like starting off small and feeling more confident in your business and yourself, and then asking and being met with rejection or being met with, okay, and just doing it over and over again.
Right. Yeah. Are you saying you want to be a sponsor?
No. Good job, though. I'm proud of you.
I didn't quite ask you to be a sponsor. I just asked if that's what you were saying.
Touche. Now you're crawling back in your shell. Sorry, I definitely ruined that for you. That's my fault.
I don't know why I'm like that, because I'm extremely charming. I don't know. Sorry. Hey, I have a. Speaking of sponsors, I do have a sponsor, and the segment is sponsored by them. So it's called That Some Bunny Special, because bunny hugs, that's a joke. Anyway, a segment where we chat about who cooperated in our mental health journey and help fill your emotional tank. It's brought to you by Co-op. So along your journey, is there someone you kind of attribute to that's been there for you consistently, I guess, or not?
Yeah. So my parents, both in different ways. My dad was more of like a logical brain. Okay, we're going to do it this way. Like think big picture, blah, blah, blah. My mom always would be there for the hug and the cleanup, right? Unconditionally, right or wrong. So both of them have participated in that. My closest friends, I've had some really great bosses, and them not knowing that I had ADHD, but just being emotionally available and understanding. I also, just real quick, was bullied from age 9 to age 35. And right. So bullied throughout my life until I received coaching and then understood myself more. So many people don't believe that, but I promise, it's a journey and I'm still working through it. And I had some professionals along the way, including a guidance counselor that worked at the school that I worked at, and she was there for me. My principal who was there for me. I've had some teachers who understood me and just were able to see me as a person rather than a test score or someone who isn't getting along well with other kids because they're bullying her, So I've had some staples, but yeah, I can really thank my parents for being there emotionally in ways that I, couldn't even conceive. And my husband and my sister. I'm lucky.
Okay. I said one person. Calm down.
I know, but we have ADHD. We can't just choose one person. On my podcast too, I ask people at the end, so give me one thing that you want to recommend to other people as a strategy for ADHD. And it's like, so this one thing turns into and.
Oh God. Yeah. I've been on other people's podcasts too, and they're like, ask me one question at the beginning, and I don't stop talking until
that's the whole podcast. Yeah. That's the whole podcast. Know your audience, right?
Yeah. I also find it hard to believe that you're older than 35. So.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you. It's the good Riverside filter, I guess. I'm 39.
Well, there you go.
Turning 40 in April.
Oh. So what age were you diagnosed?
35. So let me.
So that's when the bullying stopped.
Yes and no.
Okay.
The bullying stopped when I received coaching, and then. So
was it a mindset that changed, or was it the bullying that changed?
Both. The bullying changed as a result of my mindset. So talking about people who don't understand you or don't make you feel good, I was able to create more boundaries. I was also able to understand and accept myself more. And I was able to understand my strengths and harness those. And I feel, literally 6 months after my diagnosis, I met my husband, and that's it. It was just, game over from there as far as like relationships and all of that. But I think it was the awareness piece and being able to execute things in like big things in a linear way over time through the coaching as well. Boundaries, execution, feeling successful.
So you were diagnosed late in life and then became a coach. Is that a common thing, or is it more?
No. Hear me out. I became a coach before I got diagnosed.
Stop.
Yep.
Really?
An ADHD coach before I knew I had ADHD.
Did you suspect it?
No.
What?
So
we're going to have to book another hour.
Yeah. Real quick. I'll give you the cliff notes, or I'll try. I graduated with my master's in students with disabilities. I did my undergrad in general education. I was a special education teacher working with ADHD and learning disabilities for 15 years, along with an assistant director of special education. I could identify who had ADHD as students, right? I couldn't diagnose, but I could identify and point out the symptoms. Did not know I had it. Fast forward, I moved to Florida to change my career. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur because the school system, there was just too much red tape, and didn't know what I wanted it to be. I knew it was in education, but I didn't know what. So I received coaching for a year. During that journey of that year-long coaching program, I decided I wanted to be an ADHD coach. I received my certifications during that time, and I started coaching. I started working with students. I started working with adults. 6 months into it, that was then in the beginning of 2019, I started working on the computer with adults. And I realized that a lot of the symptoms that they had, I had too, where I would be able to focus on the coaching call, but then I couldn't do my notes and then come back to a coaching call. So that's shifting and sustaining attention was hard for me, and the working memory was hard. So all the pieces came together, and then I sought out a diagnosis from someone I know in the field, and it was combined type ADHD, moderate.
Well, there you go.
There you have it. Sometimes our paths just lead us to where we are. Someone's writing a script.
Yeah. So it's not it probably isn't. Oh my God, what's the word I'm looking for? It wasn't coincidence. Probably it was like
Correct.
you could just relate, and so that you couldn't help but go in that direction.
Absolutely.
Um,
Someone told me that all special education teachers are special. And I really felt like that empathy towards my students, and I felt connected to them in a way that I didn't realize was because I was also dealing with that.
Well, it's funny. For a long time, my dad used to say, "Man, your friend group, they're big characters." And that now that I've been diagnosed with ADHD, and some of them have been and stuff, it's like, yeah, I think it's like we give off this weird vibe that we all just gravitate towards, and it's some of my one friend, I'm pretty sure
You find your people.
Yeah. My one friend, I'm pretty sure he's on the spectrum too. So, which is, it's a very common comorbidity, isn't it? ADHD and autism.
50 to 75% of people with autism also have ADHD.
Damn. But not
the other
but not
way
necessarily
around.
If you have ADHD, right?
Correct.
Right. Yeah. Was there anything I didn't ask or that you wanted to touch on? I know you have an entire podcast.
I do. I have a business. I have a book.
Right.
No
Promote
big
yourself.
Deal. Coaching with Brooke is my company. We work with students, adults, and parents, 8 to 80. We've been in business since 2018. We have 8 coaches, different programs, one-on-one and group coaching. And our signature process, 3C Activation, I put into a book that just was released in October of this year, 2023, Activate Your ADHD Potential. And it's doing well. And the goal was to help thousands more individuals with ADHD learn all the tools and strategies from my program in this less expensive method, and really just gain awareness, gain consistency, gain confidence in their ADHD. And yes, I have a podcast, SuccessFULL, with 2 L's, with ADHD. I am also a public speaker and just a teacher at heart. And, our goal as a company is to impact over 10 million ADHDers over the next 5 years.
Are you keeping track?
You can find me trying.
How many millions have you gotten so far?
Over 1 million. Yeah.
Okay.
So at first it was 1 million, then we changed it to 10 million.
You're like McDonald's.
Yeah.
Over
exactly.
10 billion served.
Served, right, exactly. But literally, if you need any help, you could always find me on social media. I think that's where you found me, at Coaching with Brooke with an E. And on my website, Coaching with Brooke, our newsletter weekly gives free tips. We do free webinars. We have lots of free tips on Instagram. And that's all I got to say for now.
Cool. Thanks, Brooke. You're amazing. Your podcast is great. I even bought her workbook for our 17-year-old son. Well, not her and my 17-year-old son, my wife, Jen. Our 17-year-old son, who is in the middle of getting an assessment for ADHD. It's a great book as well. So make sure to follow her and support her. Go to her podcast and all that stuff. So yeah, you can check all that out in the show notes. Please don't forget, if you like free money to spend at Co-op, all you have to do is rate and review the podcast, take a screenshot, email it, bunnyhugspodcast@gmail.com, and you could win $25 gift card. So thank you so much for that, Co-op. And be sure to stay tuned, because there's all types of great episodes and great guests coming up. I don't have any speaking arrangements set up. Oh, no, I do. I have one in March, I think, at Queen's University. And hey, if you are looking for people to be guest speakers and stuff, I do it virtually online and stuff. So feel free to reach out and ask about that. You could also just email me at bunnyhugspodcast@gmail.com about anything, really. So yeah, I guess the last thing to say is just please remember to make your beds and take your meds. Bye.